Hey everybody, Max here, and today we're going to be talking about the Marvel Legends Amazing Spider-Man HELLFIRE GALA Spider-Man. This is an interesting costume that I saw in Walmart and thought this is interesting. I like unique Spider-Man costumes. This one definitely is up there with one of the weirdest styles of costume I have ever seen. But at the same time, there's things that I really do like about it. I think there's some positives here. So I do not think it is worth $28. So I waited for the sale. It went on clearance at Walmart. Pretty sure this is a Walmart exclusive, but I got it for $15. So I think it's a $15 figure. Maybe less, but I paid $15 for it. I don't think it was a bad purchase. So I actually quite like this figure. So let's dive into the package as we normally do. And let's get the figure out of the way here. And HELLFIRE GALA. This is a part of the X-Men Krakoa era. So if you're into the Marvel comics, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. This was an era of X-Men where they had formed their own nation on the island, the mutant island of Krakoa, and once a year they had this HELLFIRE Gala where they would get all the major movers and shakers in the Marvel Universe together, and it was a chance to let the artists of the various series just kind of go wild with the radical designs of costumes and fancy costumes, fancy outfits and everything. And so this was a costume that one of the mutant characters came up with for Spider-Man. So he was invited to this particular thing. And I don't know who the artist here is, but I know this is a panel from the HELLFIRE Gala comic that he was a part of. And I quite like it. There's some digital coloring and everything, so it's very neat. And then on the back, Spider-Man swings an invite to the X-Men's HELLFIRE Gala, the biggest mutant celebration in the Marvel Universe, donning a couture costume courtesy of mutant fashion designer Jumbo Carnation. So there's I don't know if this is an actual cover or a house ad or something like that, but it's interesting. It seems to have some glowing, so there's some technology involved with this, so it has this glowing effect. And I think they recreated it as best they could with the paint that they had. And then we have this picture on the side. So that's the box. This guy does not come with a whole lot, and which is part of the reason why I don't think it's worth $28. And because he doesn't come with any effects. All he comes with is 3 sets of hands, and that is it. And I am having a heck of a time. These joints are very stiff. So let's get him into a neutral pose and talk about him. This is the Amazing Fantasy 15 body, and we've seen this before on the black suited Secret Wars Spider-Man. So, like so. And it's pretty good. I think this is a good body for Spider-Man, without a doubt. And I was going to show you this guy. Unfortunately, my Amazing Fantasy 15 figure, the arms twisted right off. I don't know what the heck happened. I was going to use him as a example. I was doing like a side-by-side comparison, and I went to move the arms, and they both just twisted right off. So I'm very disappointed in that. But thankfully, the plastic on this guy is much better, and it feels solid, and yet doesn't feel sticky or pliable or overly pliable or anything like that. So that is pretty good. This is a fairly solid figure despite its limitations in what it comes with. But it comes with 2 thwipping hands, a pair of thwipping hands, right and left. And then he has the wall crawling hands on there as he's walking like an Egyptian earlier. And then he has 2 fisted hands. Now, what really stands out to me as being kind of a positive or very interesting thing is how well the lines around the fingers, the paint, turned out. So I think this is red plastic with purple paint, and then they have the actual peg here. Well, maybe it's red. Yeah, maybe it's purple with red paint, and then they have the white lines, in a web pattern around the fingers. And so that kind of stood out to me as being a little odd in terms of the design itself, but the fact that they were actually able to recreate that and have no bleeding, that was really cool. And I think the shading, the fading of the paint, the purple to the red, it turned out very well. So that was kind of one of the things that sold me on this figure. Like I said, he doesn't come with anything, but most of the web accessories we get are pretty, we've seen them a lot, and I don't like them. The plastic web line. I use floral wire, so this is my these were my Amazing Fantasy 15 web lines. So I'm either going to have to chunk this guy, use him for parts, or try to fix him somehow. But until then, the floral wire web lines will be going to the Hellfire Gala Spider-Man. So let's talk about, like I said, what sells me on this is the paint job. And like I said, I do like odd, or maybe not odd's the wrong word, but I do like unique Spider-Man costumes. So the black suit costume is my favorite. I do like the Spider-Man Unlimited. I like Spider-Man 29. That's actually probably my favorite costume. Even though that's not Peter Parker, that's still my favorite Spider-Man costume. But this one turned out really interesting. The the eyes. This looks like new tooling. This looks like a new head sculpt, and there's almost like the design itself. These almost seem like angel wings, but you can see some molding in the around the eyebrows. So there's kind of some molding there, and then the eye pieces are actually, that is molded. That's not painted on. I feel like indentations for where the white should be. And then I think this is purple plastic with red paint and then white over it. So it kind of gives it that glowing look. And it's just interesting. That's about the only word I can think of. This is not something that I would hope to see as his primary costume, but maybe with a few subtle changes, I think, maybe just kind of do away with the white little extensions here, these little extra pieces there at the top, and maybe fill in the red and just make it all white, but then have red around it and purple. So, I'm not opposed to him being in a purple costume, purple and red, but I do like it's interesting to me, the spider logo on the shoulder, and then the legs spread out along the back, the arms down the leg, and then on the back, and even into the butterfly joint, which is a pretty good butterfly joint. So, and then all the way down the leg. So this is one of those figures where the paint has to rock. That's the selling point, and it has to be done well. And so I do think they did a lot of extra passes on the shoulder and the upper arm to fill in all the muscle crevices, little places there. But be careful that because of how high the paint is, if you try to get this in a T-pose, which is very difficult actually with this particular figure, because I mean it's just the detents in there are pretty stiff, and then I actually had to cut down some extra material off of that shoulder, the top of the shoulder, and I had to heat it up as well to kind of get it in there. I can get a better T-pose on the left than the right. It's very stiff right in here. And I wouldn't want to get too much of a T-pose anyway. If you go too high, you're going to run the risk of scratching the paint off the shoulder there and then just kind of ruining it a little bit. But on a whole, it turned out really well. Now, I've been dogging Marvel Legends for a bit on just kind of the poorness of the paint, like say that Venom in the Captain America 2-pack. That was just atrocious. I mean, it's a bit, how hard could that be to just do another pass on those legs? But they did do a pretty good job on this guy. So with the exception of maybe this leg here, you can kind of see the purple bleeding through a little bit. But on a whole, the paint is fairly sharp all the way around. And it looks like they gave us more paint on the arms than on the upper torso. But then the lower torso turned out fairly well. And it actually lines up decently. So that's pretty cool. Very sharp all the way around. And then you can see here the white lines on the webbing of the hands turned out very well. And then on the back, you can kind of see through it a little bit. Maybe there's a little a little chipping right there. I mean, it's not perfect, and then there's some overspray, little splotches. I'll clean that up later. But for a $15 figure, hey, I feel like it's worth that much. So, and then you get down to the feet, and this is red plastic with purple paint, and it fades fairly well. I don't know what the spines here on the back, but that's new. That's an interesting little addition there. And then you have the white lines on the feet, and then the fading as well. So this is red plastic with purple paint, and then the white over it. And another selling point for me, what reminded me with the white lines was Eddie Van Halen's Frankenstrat. So I'm a huge Van Halen fan. Eddie Van Halen, may he rest in peace, greatest guitar player of all time. And this reminded me of the design on his Frankenstrat, so that he played so often in his early days. So yeah, like I said, that was kind of the selling point. And articulation is about what we should probably be used to if you have the Amazing Fantasy 15 or the black suited Spider-Man from Secret Wars, same stuff. Fixed neck with a disc hinge so he can look up very well. I quite like that. And then he can look down very well. And usual side to side stuff in the T-pose, almost there. And then pretty good range of motion on the butterfly joint. I have thought about trying to take the arms out and snip the pegs to get something a little more range of motion out of the butterfly joint. I did it on this one, and it almost ruined it. So I've really kind of this poor figure's just been through the works. He's been through the ringer. So I probably won't do that here and just be happy with what I have with the range of motion that I have, which isn't bad, and pretty good bicep swivel, and it doesn't feel sticky. It feels solid. The plastic on the Spider-Man Unlimited figure has largely the same arms, and at least I believe, and it just feels different. The plastic just feels gummy to a certain degree. This one does not. This one feels solid, and so I think I might have had to heat up the elbows to get a little more range of motion because it was very stiff out of the box. But it's been cold here, and I did order it, so it probably sat on the front porch for a few hours till I got home. But we got double jointed pinless elbows, pretty good range of motion. He can pretty much rest his head in his hands. so we got that, and then wrist swivel and vertical hinges. I'm sorry, horizontal hinges. I never can get those right. Horizontal hinges. He's got his jazz hands, and then his diaphragm is a little limited on the forward motion, but goes back, a decent amount because he has the inverted ab crunch, which I do like this. I do like this configuration quite a bit. You do get a little more range of motion on the forward bend with this configuration. Sometimes you have a tendency for figures to be a little too wobbly right here. He's not too bad, and again, the paint turned out fairly well. They did give some pretty good passes to fill in the creases, and get over the musculature and everything like that. So, but it still kind of shows through here and there. So, and side to side is really good. So yeah, so that's pretty solid. And then he could get better splits, but his forward kicking forward is pretty good from the hips. So he passed 90 degrees, so that's really good. And I like this configuration. It's got plenty of space right there. So while it needs better splits, I think that this is kind of the space that you need in a hip area for a figure or a character like Spider-Man. So that's what kind of gripes me about other figures, Spider-Man figures, Daredevil figures, Nightcrawler. There's just not enough. They don't give you enough space for him to kick forward and get into those deep, those deep lunges, those kind of the deep, more articulated, acrobatic poses that Spider-Man and those kinds of characters are known for. So we've got the thigh swivel, and pretty good thigh swivel, and not a lot of wobble in this particular, the right leg. I've shown in other videos that, or discussed in other videos, that the right and the left hip joints have been redesigned in some cases on some figures, and as a result of that, there's a little more gap right here. It's a little more wobbly right there, and I just can't stand that. But the knees are pretty good, double jointed pinless. He kicks back very far despite the spines. He can almost kick his own rear end, both right and left. And then we have the shin swivel, which I do quite like. I'd like shin swivels or ankle swivels, and then pretty good ankle rockers too. So kicks forward that far, or foot comes forward that far, and then back all the way. Can point his feet, and that is our Hellfire Gala Spider-Man. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Is this a figure that you were excited about, indifferent to, picked up when you got it on sale? Like I said, this guy was a complete impulse buy when I saw it go on sale for $15. I do like the unique look of it. Is it going to be my main Spider-Man? Honestly, it could. I like these stylized figures, costumes and stuff, and I like the variety. So, and to be honest with you, I've never quite been crazy about the original look of Spider-Man, the red and the blue, the web lines and everything. It's just always seemed to strike me as a bit too busy. Spider-Man, I like the cleaner lines. I like I'm kind of a minimalist with regards to that. Just sleek, simple, gets the job done. The logo one straight color. And then a really cool mask. So I'm going to give this guy a warp factor of 7.5. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Is that too high? Is that too low? What would you rate it? I'm also getting close to 500 subscribers. I would love to get there by the end of the year. Just past 450. And I want to say thank you to everybody who has subscribed thus far. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hope you guys have a great holiday season, and I'll talk to you guys next time.